The P20 and the P20 Pro, two pretty unique phones from Huawei, were just announced. And Huawei was kind enough to give me a little bit of time before they were released. So as is the usual here on my channel, I tried to use as much of that time as I could to do a complete walkthrough. If you're not familiar with my complete walkthroughs, basically it's me trying to go through every feature I possibly can on a device so that you are better informed should you want to maybe buy that device in the future. Now personally, I'm a little more interested in the P20 Pro with its 3-camera setup and its just higher end features. So I'm basically going to focus on that in this complete walkthrough. But it is very similar to the P20 in a lot of ways, but I will link below all of the differences for anyone who is interested in the baby brother. Okay, so first and foremost, we have to talk about this color. It's called Twilight, and it's very reminiscent to me of that color change sometimes called chameleon paint that you see some celebrities have on their fancy cars. Except in the form of a phone, I find it far less douchey. In fact, I'm sort of in love with this color. It's basically a gradient that goes from purple to blue to green and looks different depending on the lighting. Now, if you're not into the flashy nature of this color, like I clearly am, there are plenty of other options, including a very sexy midnight blue and a pink gold that I didn't get a chance to see but was told is a gradient like the Twilight but in a pink to gold version. And then, if none of those appeal to you, there's of course a black version. The device is made out of glass and has curved edges on all 4 sides. The screen is a 6.1-inch OLED 18.7 by 9 aspect ratio, 2240 by 1080 resolution. And yes, at the top of the screen, there is a notch. But Huawei at least had the sense to add software features that, when turned on, hide the notch by simply making the status bar entirely black instead of transparent. At the other side of the screen, we have a front-facing fingerprint sensor that Huawei allows to also be used as navigation, where you can turn off the on-screen navigation buttons and use a system of swipes and taps to get home, go back, open multitasking, etc. They've also enabled a facial unlocking feature that I was actually surprised by. I set it up, and while trying to film it, kept pushing the button to show you guys it unlocking, but it just kept taking me to the home screen, so I actually assumed it wasn't on. Now, I turned it away though, pushed the button, and it did, in fact, ask for a face. Turning it towards me then unlocked it. So, needless to say, at least in the conditions I was in, it's a seriously fast solution that I look forward to putting through its paces when I have a device for a longer period of time. The P20 Pro is also IP67 certified, is about 7.8 millimeters thick, and has a 4,000 milliamp battery that Huawei says will charge from 0 to 58% in about 30 minutes, and supports 1.2 gigabit per second LTE. Audio hardware-wise, it has Sony's LDAC 990 kilobit per second system, which is some of the highest quality Bluetooth audio streaming that you can get, although there isn't many devices that can utilize it, frankly. With that said, there is, of course, no headphone jack, and just a USB-C port at the bottom. At the top, we have an IR blaster that we'll get into more in a sec. On the left, we have a SIM card micro SD card slot, and on the right, we have our power button and volume rocker. Finally, on the hardware side, we have the Kirin 970 powering the device, the same as the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, along with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. Software-wise, it's running Android 8.1 with EMUI 8.1 on top, and it's the same variety of EMUI that we're used to seeing, so I won't go through it too much. But quickly, here are some of the apps that Huawei has pre-installed. We have Backup, which is a phone backup and restore program. Files, which is their own file explorer that can sort by type of file or location. Flashlight, which is used to magically illuminate things behind the phone when you tap this button. Gallery, their own photo album that sorts photos and videos by albums and locations. Mirror, which is a strange app to use as a mirror because it offers basically the same features as just turning on the selfie camera, but whatever. Music, Huawei's own music player. Notes, a simple note-taking app. Phone Clone, which allows you to download the app on another phone and quickly transfer all of your photos, videos, apps, etc. from one device to another. Phone Management, their own app for cleaning up cache and storage, monitoring or limiting mobile data, battery monitoring and scanning for viruses. Recorder, a simple voice recording app. Smart Remote, which uses that built-in IR blaster that we talked about before to use the phone as a universal remote to control any number of devices, from TVs to air conditionings to cameras, etc. Themes, where you can download or buy new themes from Huawei's repository. Tips, which is Huawei's app for showing you how to get the most out of your device. and Translator, which is a partnership between Microsoft and Huawei. It's the Translator app that you basically find in the Play Store, but Huawei says that Microsoft has tuned it to use the NPU in the Kirin 970, and so it can translate a lot faster than normal. Another software thing Huawei has in the P20 Pro is Huawei Share that allows you to share photos, videos, whatever, between devices and any other Huawei device a lot faster than pairing with Bluetooth manually. Think AirDrop, but for Huawei. And sharing that photo brings us to the big feature that Huawei's been teasing with this phone for weeks. It's the 3 O's in their See More campaign, the cameras. This is now the first Leica-powered 3-camera system, and honestly, it's more than a gimmick, at least in my initial use, but we'll put the camera through proper paces soon as I get more time with it. This collection of 3 cameras is comprised of a 20-megapixel monochrome sensor with an aperture of f1.6, a 40-megapixel RGB main camera with an aperture of f1.8, and an 8-megapixel telephoto one with f2.4. There's also a 3-meter laser sensor for autofocusing, a color temperature sensor to detect light temperature and adjust the white balance of photos, and they claim to have a 4D predictive focus that attempts to guess where a moving subject will be and keep better focus on it. The idea here is familiar for the most part. When in auto mode, the camera will automatically take the image from the monochrome and RGB sensors and combine them to make a higher quality image. The telephoto lens is here just for another option when zooming in. Now, it's a 3 times optical zoom compared to the 2 times on the S9 Plus, Note 8, and iPhone 10. And they've added up to 5 times zoom through software that they say doesn't affect quality. And then from there, it's the normal crappy digital zoom that we get on every phone that gets blurred as you pinch in up to 10 times. Now, it could be interesting to see how that telephoto does because I, for one, like the idea of having a 3 times telephoto lens on my phone. It basically will allow me to take a lot of different photos that I wouldn't normally be able to take in the same way that having different lenses for my mirrorless camera would. Now, according to Huawei, we not only have these higher megapixel cameras, but we also have a sensor that is 223% larger than the iPhone 10 sensor and 170% larger than the Galaxy S9 sensor, which allows the device to get up to 102,400 extended ISO, which, by the way, I wasn't able to display in Pro mode, but was told that the camera is capable of, so we'll test that too when we can. As far as stabilization, the telephoto camera has optical stabilization, while the other cameras have AIS, as Huawei is calling it, which they claim is AI-assisted stabilization, or an advanced form of electronic stabilization, basically, which you can see me quickly messing with in a video test here. Full test, of course, in the future. The device also has the same AI scene detection that in auto mode will detect what you are trying to shoot and automatically adjust the camera settings for you to optimize for that type of photo like we saw in the Mate 10 Pro. The nice thing here though is that there is an X that you can easily tap if you don't want it to apply the settings, and even a setting in the camera settings itself to completely disable it. Going through the camera settings, we have the following modes besides our normal photo and video. Pro, which allows you to adjust all of the camera's functions like ISO, shutter speed, exposure, autofocus, white balance, etc. Night shot. Now this setting allows you to take a long exposure shot that holds the shutter open for 4 seconds. Huawei claims that because of the AIS stabilization, this feature can even work handheld, which is unlike the normal way of having to make sure to mount a camera doing these types of shots, or you'll just have lots of streaks and blurs in your image. Super slow-mo, you knew it was coming because of all the other devices this year that are coming with it, but it allows 960 frame per second slow motion in 0.2 second bursts, creating 6-second super slow-mo clips in 720p. Slow-mo, which is our regular slow-mo, that allows you to record 120 frames a second in 1080p only, not the 240 that we see in some other devices. Monochrome, which of course allows you to use the monochrome sensor by itself to take black and white photos. Time-lapse, which allows you to shoot at lower frame rates to have a sped up video. HDR, which is a mode on Huawei devices instead of just being an automatically detected thing in auto mode like most manufacturers, which I don't really understand. Light painting, which allows you to create long exposure photos that you've undoubtedly seen on social media somewhere where people write words with their cell phone or other forms of light. Portrait mode. Now this mode does automatically actually turn on as part of the AI scene detection if you're taking a photo of a person. You can also exit out if you don't want to use that. But you can turn it on manually here. If you aren't familiar, by the way, it's the concept of blurring out the background of a photo using software. There you go, guys. Hope that wasn't too long for you guys and you enjoyed it, like, comment, or subscribe if you did. Also, make sure to check the bell next to the word subscribe so you get notified when I do new videos. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's @TheUnlocker. I'll leave a link below because as soon as I get this phone, I'm going to be taking a bunch of photos with it and posting there like I do with every new phone. So check that out. Otherwise, though, regardless, thanks for watching.